Hi, today we're going to do an Eclipse card, so I'm jumping straight into it. The stamps I've chosen to use for my floral display is by Alter New and it's called Beauty Within. So I've just placed my 3 stamps onto my Misty and I'm just getting a good image using the VersaFine Clay because all I intend to do is colour them with inks today. Previously, when I have used this stamp set, I've made some masks of the flowers. So I'm just going to pop that down. There's still a little bit of tack left onto these masks so that I can pop the leaf stamps where I need them to be. But if you notice, I'm not going to take the flower stamps off the Misty. I'm just going to use a block to put the leaves on, just in case I have any misdemeanors and I think I need to stamp over the image again. So I'm not taking the stamps off the Misty. Also, while I was off camera and I'd got those 3 stamps where I needed them to be in the Misty, I stamped onto a piece of copier paper. And what I've done this time to make a mask is cut the inside of the flower out, just so that I can make a mask for the outer, which you'll see in a second. It was easy to do. So now that's going to be my focal image. And this is the mask I've just been saying about. Because what I want to do is make the colouring of these flowers as easy as possible. So choosing some inks, and the pads I've chosen to do the flowers, I'm going to do Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody. And then for the leaves, Garden Green and Mint Macaron. But obviously you can choose the different colours, different ink brands, anything you like, you can colour them with. But if you're not going to use a water-based ink, and say if you wanted to use alcohol markers, you're going to need to use Memento or do a heat emboss, just so that it doesn't bleed. But because I'm using the ink pads, which are water based, the VersaFine Clear ink to do my stamped image is perfect. So I've not made a dummy run with this one at all. So I'm just doing it off the hoof. All I knew that I wanted to do an Eclipse card. And this is sort of me just making it up as I go along. And with this piece of copier paper, I've not put any sticky on it. I'm just holding it over that image that I'm working on. I find that it's easy, there's no faffing, and it works for me. As we're now coming into summertime in the UK, this past week we've had some beautiful weather. So it's gardening time, and I've been revamping my home. I've not crafted, not really at all. And this is the first video I've made in a long time. I do apologise, but I do try to do everything myself. And it is hard sometimes. And I've just knocked the camera there. So I'm going to place those masks back onto the flower heads, just to protect it a little bit while I work on the leaves. I'm just putting some ink down onto the sheet and spritzing it with a little water. I'm not using watercolour card, this is just a smooth cardstock for stamping. And I'm not really saturating the card, but obviously it is going to get wet. Not doing anything fancy, I'm just popping colour down. I'm turning my work round as I go. And because I've chosen a sentiment to use as my eclipse, what I've done, I've cut 3 pieces of the sentiment already and stacked them. Just put glue in between and stack them on top of each other, because you want the eclipse to stand out. So when I've done this piece, I will then cut the appropriate parts out of the same die. And just keep tweaking things as you go along, because obviously with the watercolour method, the ink will go down, but then it's drying, so it'll give a more muted effect, so you can build up all the time with this method. Just picking a little bit of the darker green up and popping it onto the centres, and the peachy colour of the flower gives a yellow tinge to it. As you can see, it does change the centres and the little edges. So peeling it off my sticky mat, which is a new product to me. It's a waffle flower sticky mat, and which I've got added in my misty, and I found it really nice to use, so I'm happy with that purchase. Just drying it off a little bit, but ideally I would have liked to have let it air dry for a flatter sort of a flatter look to your card, but I was trying to get it done as soon as possible. It's not fully dry, but it'll do. So I've placed that die down, ran it through the die cutting machine, and I want to keep all the little pieces that I'm poking out. The mat I'm putting the die cut pieces on, it's just a baking mat that I got from IKEA, you know, the silicone baking mats, and it had its day, and I decided to cut it up and use it like a little grippy mat, and it is nice. It works a treat. So I'm just going to put that on my sheet when I've wiped it down. And then with the quick grab glue in my decanted bottle, just putting dots of glue. I'm not saturating it. I don't want it to be a mess. I just want dots of glue to hold it. I'm placing it down and using the tweezers to squeeze the sides together on the letters. It pops it into position. I'm just going to pop a block on top to flatten it. And that's done. So I've chosen some peach cardstock. The actual stamped image piece of cardstock measures 6 by 6. The peach cardstock is 6.5 by 6.5. But before I put it on, I'm just going to run a black Sharpie pen around all 4 sides just to make it pop. And then the next stage is sticking it onto that peach cardstock. So I've decided to use the Crafter's Companion tape runner on the sides and then a little around the aperture. But then going in with my quick grab glue, getting into all those little nooks and crannies, because I want this to lie as flat as possible. Out of all the tape runners I've used, I've found that this one is the best. It has got a really good grab on it. So we're ready to start putting the Eclipse pieces in. I'm just putting a rough piece of glue onto the main areas. And this bit's just like a jigsaw, popping them back into place. And you can see that image building back up. Getting my pickup tool. I've noticed a little mark on there. That's it, and it's coming off. So in these tiny areas where I can't really put any glue, I'm just using a ball tool, a really tiny one, and just popping the glue down. And it makes it so easy then. It really is quite satisfying watching that image come back to life. I've got one little piece left, and I need to really look hard to find where it's going, and that's it. Now normally I've got my base card already made, but today I haven't, so I thought I'd show you how I do it. So I want 7x7 card, so I'm just marking 7 on one and then 7 on the width, and I'm doing a score line on 7 on the other and marking it 7.5. So when I get to that little notch, I know that's where my cut line's going to be. Now this is my stability base that I always do on my cards. So I'm cutting it down to 4, and then I'm just eyeballing it with the other card for the width of the 7 and making that piece. Then scoring it at a half on the 4 side, 2 and 3.5. So on the piece I've done the score line, just burnishing that. Now normally I would put the back piece of the card and have that flap on the inside. For some reason I did it the opposite on this one, but normally you cannot see that join on my cards. And just folding up those score lines, giving it a good burnish, but I'm going to put my base on after I've put the topper on. So putting glue on those flaps, or you could do tape runner if you wanted to, with the folded side at the bottom towards you. Get it in position and just fold it over. When you've done that, give it a good burnish with your bone folder. Now, after I'd done this, I did make a personalised sentiment and popped it on the front. Please like and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave me a message. Thank you very much for watching. See you again soon.